Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing super great. I'm trying a little bit of a new format here on the podcast. So I'm going to start off with a quick introduction. Just say, hey everybody, welcome to the People of Packaging podcast. This is going to be live on LinkedIn and live on YouTube. And then this is pre-recorded though, so hopefully I'm able to monitor some more comments and things like that, and then I'll put it out live onto the podcast format. So this conversation today is with Eddy Hagen, and Eddy and I talk about color theory when it comes to printed packaging, why maybe some of these press checks and things like that are getting a little too out of control, and why we need to rein it in and put some better standards on our our color that we're using. So without further ado, actually, no, there is further ado. So I've got a few sponsors, and I'm going to play a couple of videos. There's about a minute and a half here. Would really love for you to reach out to them. You can reach out to me on any of them if you want some connections. So we got SpecRite, we've got Myers, we've got Label. We're going to be adding another one once I get the video done called Smart Solve. And so those are going to be here either at the beginning, or I may start adding them into the middle of it as well. So that's what I got going on. Let's hear a few advertisements and get to the interview with Eddy Hagen.
SpecRite allows us to centralize our spec data in an easy-to-use and searchable platform. Puts everyone on the same page with up-to-date information and helps us to adapt quickly to business needs and sustainability reporting.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by Myers, which is where I work my day job and coincidentally is the most sustainable printing company in the country. Myers is a third-generation family business on a mission to create a sustainable future for people, products, and our planet. To learn more, click the link down below in the show notes. Did you know that 89% of consumers say they've stopped buying from a brand after just one bad buying experience? Well, that's where Label comes in. Label Protect is a brand-first, buyer-focused protection solution that's uniquely designed to make shipping issues a thing of the past. Instead of leaving your buying experience to chance, you can give your customers peace of mind at checkout, knowing their orders are 100% covered from loss, theft, damage, and more. And with a 98% claim approval rate, 24-hour resolution time, and best-in-class revenue share, Label reduces customer support overhead, protects your bottom line, increases profits, and most importantly, Label keeps your customers coming back for more. So whether you ship 100 orders a month or 100,000, it's time to make the final mile part of your competitive advantage with Label. lablpx.com, or just click the link down in the show notes. Hey, good morning or good afternoon or good evening or whatever time it is that you are listening to this. This is another fantastically fun, provocative episode, dare I say, Eddy, of the People of Packaging podcast. I'm joined by Eddy Hagen, who says he does not call himself this, but he has been called a printing industry provocateur, and has a lot of really incredible, insightful, and honest takes on printing and color management. I was having dinner with some friends in Salt Lake City, a gentleman from Inkish TV, and he said, "Oh my gosh, have you not had Eddy Hagen on your podcast?" And I thought, well, I better make this happen. So Eddy's joining me from Antwerp, Belgium, and I am super excited to dig into honestly one of my favorite topics in printing in the packaging industry, the topic of color management. So Eddy, welcome to the People of Packaging podcast.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and Eddy is joining us. This is on a Friday evening, so he is taking out valuable time from his weekend to have this conversation with us. So I'm really appreciative of that. Well, Eddy, why don't you introduce yourself to listeners who don't know who you are and how you came upon this, as you said, this hobby of color management.
Yes, it's a long story, but I'll make it very short.
Okay.
I started in the printing industry in 1988 with the Federation for the Printing Industry in Belgium. And I was responsible for visiting printing companies, trying to make them member and see what they were involved in, what their concerns were and stuff like that. And what was immediately apparent for me was that all those people in the printing industry, they were passionate about their job. And this is still the case because I've also worked in other industries. My current job, the one that pays the bills, is outside of the printing industry. But if I compare with people in printing, it's really different. So years got also involved with everything that has to do with environmental issues, because that became a hot topic at that moment. When you talk about environmental issues, you're also talking about technical issues. Mm-hmm. Then the short 2 jobs in between, and then I started at the Innovation Center for the Printing Industry in Flanders, where I worked for a very long time. First as a manager for training, then I also became a trend watcher, and eventually I also became the general manager of the organization. I visited lots of conferences in the US, for instance, also in Europe. I've been many times to RIT. So all the old guys, I know them very well. I just sent an email to Frank Romano, by the way, this morning. And yeah, certainly if you look at innovation, the past 2 decades have been phenomenal, or the past 3 decades. If you look at the printing, when I entered the industry in 80, everything was on film. You had a separate typesetting. Page layout was still pasting films on a larger sheet and stuff like that. There were scanners, but they were limited. I've even seen repro cameras in printing companies. If you see what you can do now, the evolution, that's fantastic. And what has changed with technology, it's just amazing. Also, when you look at digital printing, what we can do these days, also print quality. Print buyers are always nagging about print quality. And when they talk print quality, they talk color. But if you have older books in your house, take an older book from 1 or 2 decades ago, and probably books, sort of coffee table books, those were the best quality you could get. Now take one and look at the print quality of 10 or 20 years ago. This would be impossible at this moment. This would be rejected.
Right.
So we always, our print buyers always want better and better, and they're always nagging about it and negotiating or threatening. I won't pay the bill because this is not good enough. But we have come a very long way.
No, I've just sorry to I was agreeing with you, right? Like this idea that color and quality are deeply, ingrained. I mean, I've worked for companies that print on, label substrate, paperboard substrate, film substrates, corrugated substrates, and on down the list. And it's a huge topic still of brand loyalty, of brand integrity. And so it's something that I live and breathe every day. And it sounds like this has been something for you. I mean, you said 1988. So you've certainly seen quite the evolution, not only in printing technology, but also probably in print management processes. So how people are judging whether or not this is good or this is bad quality.
Oh, yes. And this has been, for a part, not good evolution, because in the old days, so at the end of the 90s, maybe even still early 2000s, most of the print buyers were technical people. They understood printing. And at a certain moment, the sales director of a large packaging printing company in Belgium, he said to me, I'm seeing an evolution that is really bad. All the print buyers I see now, or the account managers that come in for a press check, they have no idea about printing. They do not know what it is. And their job is to to guard the brand image, but they don't know what they're talking about. So the only thing that they can do is say, I don't like this. Why? I don't know. They just say, I don't like it, and it has to be better. And then they start negotiating on the price because it was not good the first time, so you have to give a discount.
Yeah,
and this,
for sure.
this evolution has gone on, and to be honest, some printing companies, and I'm already talking about 10, 15 years ago, they didn't let any print buyers anymore in the press room because they had issues with that every time. And so they had a sample that they knew it was bad. That was the first sample that they would show their customer. And the customer, oh, you really did it, messed it up this time again. Oh, this is not the right color. And I gave a second sample that was closer to what the real color should be. You see, now that I intervened, now you're getting closer, but it's not completely correct. And then the third one was the correct one. And I know from printing companies that they all had already finished the job, but they did it in few stages, and then eventually they signed it off. So this is nuts.
That's crazy.
It's much more about psychology. I'm the print buyer. I'm paying you, dear printer, and I have the authority to make you do what I want. It has nothing to do with is the color right, except when you start measuring, and that's why I really hate physical press checks. Everything should be measured, and then you can start discussing on what the deviation can be. Is it 2.5 delta E? Is it 4 delta E? That's another discussion. Maybe we can address that in a few minutes.
I would love to get into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes, this is the really favorite part of my topic.
So I spend a lot of time talking about this, and I was actually at an event discussing the nature of objectivity. And I'm constantly trying to drive people to a starting point of what do we know that is objectively true. So if somebody says the color looks wrong, it's like that is a subjective. It's a subjective thing. It's an observation, but it's a subjective observation, right? Like I want to observe what is objectively true. And so when it comes to, materials, let's say, if you order 100-pound cover stock, you can measure it. You can say, is this 100 pounds? Or I'm not sure what the GSM would be. I don't know what the equivalent is over in the EU, but here it's like, is this a 24-point solid bleach, white over white board stock? Yes. Is the size, 3 by 4.5 by 5.5? Yes. Is it a tuck top auto bottom box? Yes. Okay, now let's get to the color. And it seems like at that point is where the majority of subjectivity comes in. I just need the orange to be more cheerful. It's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to make it. Can it be more? I just need it to pop off the thing a little bit more. It's like, well, I don't. So this topic of leveraging data when it comes to color management, I think is something that we still haven't. I know that there have been, certain people here in the US, certain organizations who have really tried to deliver on the promise, but to me, it's still not quite there. I would love to get your take, coming from this long history in the printing industry, and also from over in Europe and Belgium specifically. How has it been over there, and where are you at today in terms of how could we solve this?
Well, to solve this, we first have to be aware of the fact that one of the most important claims is not what people think it is. That claim is color increases brand recognition by 80%. You probably have heard that. The exact quote is up to 80%. But this is not about color the way that we talk about it now. This comes from studies in newspaper printing and the effect of having black and white ads or color ads. And if you apply that, then you will have 80% more brand recognition than just black and white. But this is being abused by many, many people already for decades to get or to convince brand owners that their brand color has to be within a very tight tolerance. But there is no proof that this is necessary. I've been claiming this for many years. I've asked if people challenge me, give me the proof that this has to be within a certain delta E, so the distance between two colors, and nobody has given me any proof. I recently got from somebody from X-Rite a paper. This shows that that color is important, but this was only on 4 colors. So this was that a certain type of product had to be either green or blue or red. Yes, then color matters. But whether it's this blue or this blue, that's a tiny bit different. There is no proof for that. And on my blog, which is called insightsforprint.ceo, I once did the test. It has been there already a long time. I took 6 deviations of red, all brand colors. And as you know, Coca-Cola once said, there's no Pantone number for Coca-Cola, but if you see it, you will recognize it. So what was the test? 6 variations of the Coca-Cola logo with 6 different reds. Which one is the right one? Guess what? The most popular one was not the right one. The most popular one had a delta E of 4.3.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the right one was on Tide, the second most picked color, and this was looking at part of my screen now. It's about just below 20%. So this was just very mixed results, because the other second most picked color was 9 delta E different from the right color.
Said 9?
9.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So all those print buyers nagging about a 3 delta E difference, I'm sorry, they're wasting time, money, resources on something that will not make a difference. I've also shown pictures of 2 packages, Kellogg's Corn Flakes, and one was flipped a little bit to the back. So the lighting was different, and the light is one part of color, so it looked very different. So I put it on LinkedIn, and I asked if this was acceptable or not. The comments I got, it was amazing. But those were identical packages. But just because due to the different lighting, perception in the shop is different. So there are so many differences, or so many variables, I should say, that influence color vision, color perception. You can't control it all. So if you want to be within a very tight tolerance, it just doesn't make any sense. And some big companies are really promoting that. Technology providers, also consultants are promoting that, because it's their bread and butter. But essentially, it's not necessary. And then we come to the elephant in the room. If a designer, together with a brand owner, is picking a new brand color, and they take a Pantone guide and they pick a color from the Pantone guide, say, this is the color I want. No, that's not the color, because the Pantone guides are not identical to the LAB values, the spectral values that are linked to that color. This can be, the one that you see can be different from the official description of the color. And that's what's also really wrong. And the guys from Pantone and X-Rite, they don't like me saying that, but they try to have their brand color, their guides, their physical guides, they aim to be within 2 delta E. But I had many people measure it, and the average delta E is much more than 2 delta E.
You
so
mean
then you have, I'm sorry?
What you're measuring between like 2 different Pantone books, or?
Yes. Different people measuring different Pantone books. No, I should also add, I have one person who has 10 copies in his shop, a prepare shop, and he measured 7 of them, and one color of blue. None of it was within 2 delta E, and the deviation between 2 of the copies, the most extreme ones, was almost 1 delta E, if I recall correctly. So all 10 were bought at the same moment, and there was a variation of 1 delta E between the different copies. So there is something wrong.
Interesting. So I guess my question would be, because I mean, I can't count how many times I have had to have a conversation with somebody about color, right? And it's because I work in printed packaging and not like commercial print, and maybe it's the same with commercial print, I'm not sure, but I'll see companies who will say, okay, I want Pantone, whatever, 1612, or I don't even know if that's a number. I'm just making something up. And I want this Pantone color. And they go, okay, great. And then the printer takes that ink from, that's specified for Pantone, and then they print it on clear film, and then they laminate that clear film to foil. And now that color looks nothing like what the buyer thought it was going to look like, right? And then the printer goes, well, I did what you told me to do. I took the Pantone color. Now, that would be a bit irresponsible of a printer, and not many people do that. I have seen it happen, and I understand their argument as the printer. But I'm fascinated, and I guess I'd be curious about maybe is the application that you're discussing less about standardizing and more about kind of like grace, like open up your what is your AQL for color, because it seems like if you were to take that, that Coca-Cola red, for example, and you said, okay, Delta 9, let's say this is what Coke says, and people say this is Delta 9. Then the next print, they use this Delta 9 as a target, and now they're 9 Delta out. Where you could end up at an orange or a yellow, or something. That would obviously be bad. So, is that maybe you're it's provocative, but I don't think that you're saying like just the wild west, just whatever.
No,
doesn't matter.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And I've been a proponent of standardization almost all my life. I've promoted ISO 12647 before it became popular, and and we need to address this issue in two ways. One, we have to broaden the delta E, the tolerances, because it doesn't make any sense. And also, if you look at ESG, the environment, it doesn't make any sense to be this critical because we are wasting resources.
Yes.
But we also have to start with rock solid brand color definitions. And that's why I started together with a number of specialists, Project BBCG, Better Brand Color Guides. And the website is projectbbcg.guide. And our approach is very plain and simple. Measure the color that you picked and use that measurement either in LAB values or in spectral values. Use that as your primary color definition. And then all the time you will have the right color. And okay, you can have 5 delta E difference, but the reference will always be that unique color that you picked together with your customer. And that's rock solid.
Yeah.
Plus, big advantage, you don't need any extra licenses. Most people these days have a spectrophotometer, so they can measure a color. In Photoshop, Illustrator, every application you can put in LAB values and have that color. So it's not only rock solid, it's also achievable for everybody. We also promote to use, as a brand owner, to define your colors also as an ASE file, Adobe Swatch. Make a list of all the brand colors in Adobe Illustrator, and that package of your own brand colors, export that as an ASE file. And every designer, everybody involved, everybody using Adobe CC applications and also Affinity, they can import it, and they have the right color specification. They don't need to look into in different guides. I have a sample on the Project BBCG website that has my 2 brand colors, no 3 brand colors, dark gray, light gray, and orange. And you can see it. You can see it in the naming. It's for Insights for Print.ceo, so I4P. I called it I4P orange, I4P dark gray, I4P light gray, and you immediately have the right colors. You don't need to think about it. It's easy to approach them. The only thing that takes a little bit more time is the first one has to create that ASE file. But once you do that, and if as a brand owner, your brand color is important, you should do that and make that available. Give that to everybody. Don't be secret about it. Mm-hmm. And this is the funny thing about Coca-Cola Red. It's a secret. It's their second secret formulation, also on their website. But if you have a spectrophotometer, you can easily measure it. There is no secret about it.
Right. I was going to say that, like, we have tools now. Somebody could figure out exactly what Coke red, or Ford blue. It's another kind of iconic color. Yeah, that's and I could not agree more. So it sounds like, if I can maybe summarize what you're saying, and I had to do this once for a company, by the way, that had, I want to say it was 400 different colors. And we just created, we were like, let's send me the sample of the one that your art brand director says, like, this is the one. Your CEO, it doesn't matter. I just need to have that be your standard. We're going to measure the color at that standard. We're going to create a custom color for you. And we would let them know an expected delta range around there that we think we can reasonably hit, because it was a lot of labels. And there's only so much you can control a flexo press or a litho, like a litho press. So what would you say then, kind of my final question, and I want to make sure that I get all the, you said insights for print.ceo, you got a LinkedIn post from Kellogg's and Project BBCG.guide, to make sure all those show notes are all those are in the show notes, those links. But what's your recommendation then for a brand who says, all right, Eddy, I get it, and I know we need to do this because we need to equip our printer to be able to drive costs down, to increase our sustainability scorecard, and we can do that. I've told brands this all the time, by expanding what is acceptable from a color standard, because it takes us less time and make ready to set up and get going. So is there a general range, a general delta range that you would say, like, this is pretty safe? Obviously, some colors might have to be a bit tighter and other colors can be a bit wider. Or is that also something that you talk about on your website?
I don't specifically talk about it on my website, but as I already said, I'm really in favor of standards, and there are ISO standards on colors, also on spot colors. Just use those. Lots of clever people have thought about that. They eventually came to a specific standard. Use those standards. Don't be a nerd that wants to be better than the standards, because it's if you want to do it better than the standards within tighter tolerances, every piece has to be in place and has to be controlled within a very tight tolerance, within very tight specifications. And that's difficult, and especially if you're going to packaging. Try a color on brown cardboard. That will look very different. And 100%. I don't know, I don't think they hand it out anymore, but Flint Ink used to have the Flint Ink color quiz. Did you ever see that?
No.
Well, this was fun. Just search on it on the internet. You will see some samples, and they put the same ink on 15 or 20 different types of paper. Same amount of ink on 15 different types of paper. They look very different.
I'm sure.
And this is what many print buyers do not understand: the influence of the substrate.
Yep, you've got the substrate, you've got the lighting, you've got the density of the ink, you've got the mixing of the ink, like all of it goes. It's a very, and I think maybe it's also a reason why digital printing, for various other reasons, has become so prominent. Is there seems to be a bit of a tighter control, though it's still not perfect. You still get color variations across different substrates for sure, and you can get color variations within the digital press. It doesn't matter how good there's still maintenance and things that has to go into it. So
but they have a verified feedback loop, and that's the advantage of many digital presses. They measure in line and they can adjust on the fly.
Yep. Agreed. Well, Eddy, this has been a fantastic conversation. How would people, besides the websites that we mentioned, how would people, if they wanted to follow up or ask questions or just engage with your provocative content, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
LinkedIn, probably. I'm very active at LinkedIn, not only with print-related stuff, but also other stuff. So that's the most easy way to follow me. I also publish my articles also immediately on LinkedIn. I do have a Twitter account, but I don't use that a lot.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is better for me.
It's a mess over there on Twitter. I try to stay.
Yeah, these days, absolutely.
Well, Eddy, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, everyone. Go check out insightsforprint.ceo, projectbbcg.guide, and then also I'll find the Flint Ink color quiz and a link to Eddy's LinkedIn, so you can just click on things and connect at your heart's desire. So, Eddy, thank you so much once again for coming on at the start of your weekend. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
Yes, I already had my wine available, so this was fun. Fun start of the weekend.
I love it. Thank you, Eddy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, that is a wrap for the People of Packaging podcast. Hey, if you want some more packaging content, you can go pick up the book my wife and I wrote, Packaging Peaks in a Sticky Situation, available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all sorts of places. And also, I want for you to go and follow my friends, Corey Connors. He hosts Sustainable Packaging with Corey Connors. It is incredible and it is wonderful. You can also go check out Avelio Matos's podcast, Packaging Unboxed. And you can check out the three of us every single Monday morning, 8:30 Mountain Time on LinkedIn, where we host the Packaging Today show. It is hilarious, and packaging is only half the story. So go check it out.